going to be taking a look at the period of modernity. And first thing that probably comes to our minds when we hear the word modernity is newness or modern. And that often, for many of us or many people would think that, yeah, we're living in the modern times now, as opposed to the ancient times or the old times, what came before. This period of modernity, however, when we talk at least in this field, in this discipline of history, has sort of a starting point and actually an ending point that was 80 years ago. Right around, we would say that the modernity, the period of modernism, sort of ends around 1950, let's say. And it really gets started in the 16th or 17th, in the 17th century. So around 1650, maybe a little before, would be when many scholars might mark the beginning of modernity or the transition into the modern period. Others might identify it right around, the early 1700s. The specific dates aren't really important to us, but the transition is. So we have the period of Reformation that then moves us into the Enlightenment period, the European Enlightenment, and out of the Enlightenment, we move into modernity. And so that's sort of how we mark this period of time, this stage. This week, we're going to be focusing on the intellectual or the thought context, the way ideas were understood and what was really valuable and important in the world of thinking and ideas during the modern period, particularly the early modern period and moving forward into this. And then next week, in week 13, we'll be looking more specifically, one of the attributes of modernity is the fragmentation, we could say, where previously we sort of had this narrative running through history in the different periods that we had. And in modernity, that narrative, that story, the general trend fragments. And what that means is that thinking, and particularly around hermeneutics, around interpretation, goes in many different directions. There's many different madhahib, if we want to use the Arabic term, sort of all kinds of different schools of thought that open up, and different directions and interpretive traditions open up. So this period of time is actually quite challenging because there are so many different directions to go. This week we'll look at sort of the thought world that leads to this, and then next week we'll begin to look at particular dilemmas or particular topics that are relevant to us living in the Middle East and North Africa, and the influences, the theological influences that particularly impact evangelicalism in this region. So that's sort of how we've designed to look at these 2 weeks, how to move forward with a study period during these 2 weeks. In this week, you'll find a number of elements just as previous weeks. You can start by clicking on the link directly below this, the element that says Start Here. And I'll give a bit more of an overview of the particulars of what launches modernity, or sort of the characteristics of modernity. And then we'll talk about some of the key learning components this week. And I'll give a bit of a preview for the reading, the other articles or book chapters that we have to read this week. So click on Start Here right after this video, and we'll get started with the study elements, the learning elements for this week. We're looking forward to it.